welcome back to the AGON Institute of Sports Ministries course on the Theology of Competition in Sport. I'm Dr. Greg Linville, your host and professor, and welcome back to all of the Barclay College Master of Arts in Sports Outreach students. Remember, exam quality notes. Certification students, just give us enough to know that you've actually watched this and that you're applying it, hopefully, to some of your ministries that you're doing. This whole course is designed to give you, as the sports minister, the foundations that you need, the theological, the biblical, the philosophical foundations that you need so that you can create that level 3 methodological model that really does a great job of being strategic and relevant and efficient and effective to reach people that are far from Jesus and His church. Well, we've started in on the Apostle Paul because we said that the Apostle Paul has to be understood who he was in order to understand how the Holy Spirit inspired him to write those very scriptures that you and I use as sports ministers at least on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, with those people that we're trying to impact for Jesus. Now, we talked about Paul and how he grew up, how he was positioned, how he studied in our last couple of segments. Now, in this segment, it's going to be a little bit of an overlap, but we're going to talk more about the athletic world of his day. And this will be a little bit of a review of what we did earlier about the ancient Greek and Roman, but it's going to be more specifically geared to Paul so that you will again have your knowledge, have the information that you need to be able to help you with personal transformation, and out of that then formation of ministry. So, theology and history are intricately intertwined. Contemporary history we are having right now, we're seeing a blurring of the lines, gender lines, human and machine lines, what's a human and what's a technobot, and all about what's ethical. I really think that some of what we're going to be able to get into is going to help us with these issues. Part of the way that we get to that is by understanding how Paul and his theology emerged out of a first century historical context and athletic culture. So this discussion is going to help us with historical, cultural backgrounds from which the Pauline theology was shaped and rooted. Now, this doesn't undercut the Holy Spirit's inspiration of it all, but it is rather a working together that it was fully inspired by the Holy Spirit, fully written by the human instrument of the Apostle Paul. And it will become the basis for all of our sports, recreation, and fitness ministers who are attempting, how you are attempting to envision, plan for, and implement a Christ-honoring and a biblically based sport, recreation, and fitness ministry in your church. Okay, so now we're going to move to the second slide where you have that picture that you've seen before of ancient Greece and the western part of Asia Minor, what we call Turkey together. And there are 4 specific cities that are listed, and you can see on that had both temples and sanctuaries. And during Paul's life, there were 4 crown games. Think modern days of the Grand Slam within tennis, maybe. That these are the most prestigious, the most honored of all the Greek games. And they were at Olympia. This is where the Olympic Games came from. Delphi, the great oracle, meaning kind of the prophet of the mythological Greek culture up in Delphi. But the 2 that were very, very close to where Paul hung out for at least 18 months in Corinth was Nemea, and Isthmia. And Isthmia was right there on that isthmus, that small branch of land, about 5 miles from north to south wide, that connected mainland Greece with the Peloponnesian Peninsula where Olympia was at. So it's called Isthmia because that's where it took place. All right, now move to your third slide. Each of these 4 pan-Hellenic games, meaning all of Greece, all Hellenic meaning Greek, pan-Hellenic games were extremely respected by all and always dedicated to some mythological being or deity. Of course, the Olympics were the most prestigious. You see that in the lower left-hand corner. You see the ancient track there, what would have been called the stadia. But even though it was the most prestigious, it was the least attended due to the harsh conditions and distance from population centers. It was a harsh climate. In fact, we have one annal in history that was written that said that a slave owner was so mad at one of his slaves that the punishment was to send that slave to the Olympic Games. That's how horrible it was. The Pythian Games for the Python held opposite years to the Olympics, so a 4-year span. So on the 4th year that the Olympics were held, 2 years go in between that and the Pythian Games. And those were at Delphi. And you see that up in your upper right-hand corner. And then the Nemean in the middle and the Isthmian Games were also held, but they were held every 2 years. And these were why oftentimes that they were more participated in and spectators were more likely to go to because they were closer to the population centers. Now you see, again, 2 pictures here of Olympia at the top and Delphi at the bottom. And you can see at Delphi that up on the very right-hand corner of that picture, you'll see that that's where the stadium was. And then go down the hill a little bit, and you'll see that that's where the Odeum, or the place that they did the musicals and the dramas, the theater, if you will. And then just below that, you'll see the temple to the Oracle of Delphi there, and you see that these were the 2 places where 2 of the 4 crown games. Now, 2 of the 4 crown games were held. But now, did Paul see these places? Olympia is a good possibility that we get from his writings in Hebrews. But this is only a conjecture, because that passage in Hebrews probably could only have been written by Paul. And at the very least, he was very, very familiar with what was there. Delphi, it's possible, but more likely it would have been a visit because of the Oracle of Delphi if he would have gone there. But otherwise, I can find nothing that would link him with actually having attended the Pythian Games or having ever gone to Delphi. He certainly would have known about it, but these 2 are less likely that Paul would have attended. But let's go to the Olympic Stadium now in your 5th slide, and you'll see that this is an artist rendering, and you see the huge temple of Zeus. This was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. And then you see right beside it the stadium, and then you see the palestra down to the south and the gymnasium. And you can see how they were all right there together. Again, the integration of faith and sport. You see here now, in the modern day, what's left of the stadium, or rather the sanctuary of the Temple of Zeus. Notice those olive trees in the background from the sacred grove that some of the crowns were taken from. You get a sense here of how large these stones were as I was standing beside it. And you get a sense then of also that the winner was crowned with that branch of those olive trees in the background. And then you can also see in the 9th slide this stadium in which the races actually took place. Now, we're going to take a break here, but I'm showing you the first of 2 crown games. so that you know that Paul actually intersected, he actually understood the athletic culture of the day. And you as a sports minister, you need to know the sports culture of your day. You need to be intimately knowledgeable and being able to talk about, like what I could talk about right now, history in the making. The Cleveland Indians winning 18, 19 games in a row and now going for the 20th win. This is history. You need to know what it is so that you can communicate to those people. Thanks for joining us on this segment, the first of 3 about the athletic culture of Paul's day.